Occupy Chicago has planned and will participate in 10 days of actions designed to highlight the interest of that NATO serves. We will combat the effects of the measures of austerity imposed by institutions like the G8 and NATO.
Good morning and thank you all for coming. I'm Rachel Perrotta, that's RACHAEL-PERROTTA, and I'm a member of the Occupy Chicago Press Committee. We put together this press conference to give you a preview of the NATO weeks of actions and events. While we do have many events that are public, there will be events that pop up that have not been disclosed yet or that have not been planned yet. And in order to make sure that you stay updated about that, we've created a virtual online press kit. All of you should have been able to pick this up on your way in. This press kit will be updated every morning with the phone numbers of people who will be in the streets that you can call for updates or interviews. It will be updated with the live streamers who are streaming right at that moment so you can get the best stories. And it will be updated with breaking news, actions, and events. We're going to have a few speakers today. I'll announce each one before they speak. When they're done, we'll take a couple of questions, and then after that, people will be available to speak with you one-on-one, including the folks from Occupy Walk, who came all the way here from all across the country. Their press release is in the back of their kit, but they are not a speaker today. From Occupy Chicago, we have Zoe Sigmund, that is Zoe Sigman.
Good morning. Welcome to the Chicago Spring. Mayor 1% Emanuel has issued an invitation to NATO's warmongers to invade Chicago, bringing the military arm of the 1% right here to our city. For some Chicagoans, the presence of military policing will be a taste of the daily reality of communities in Afghanistan and Libya. For other Chicagoans, the warnings of violence downtown echo the reality of police repression they face in their everyday life. NATO is a symptom of the global system of violence and oppression at the hands of the 1%. NATO claims to bring peace, but in fact brings only the violence of soldiers and bombs. It has no regard for the human or environmental consequences of its actions, actions designed to further the 1%'s continual dominance of the world. NATO receives millions of our tax dollars, money that is desperately needed to fund our rapidly deteriorating social programs. Occupy Chicago has planned and will participate in 10 days of actions designed to highlight the interest of that NATO serves. We will combat the effects of the measures of austerity imposed by institutions like the G8 and NATO. Why has Rahm Emanuel and World Business Chicago brought NATO to our city? A city whose communities are crumbling, whose schools are underfunded, whose clinics are being closed, whose jobs are disappearing, and whose homes are being stolen by the banks. On May 21st, Occupy Chicago will shut down the Boeing Corporation. Boeing is a corporate war criminal who profits off of violence on a mass scale. They receive huge tax cuts from the city of Chicago while making money on death and war. Boeing builds border walls and warplanes. They are responsible for vast environmental deterioration through enormous consumption of fossil fuels. The people of the world will confront Boeing, holding the company accountable for the crimes it has committed. From May 12th to 21st, join us in opposing the NATO war machine. Thank you.
Next, from the People's Summit, we have Zoe McAdoo. That's JESSE MCADOO.
On May 12th and 13th, Cangate, the campaign against the NATO G8 war and poverty agenda, and Occupy Chicago will host the People's Summit, an opportunity to engage in education, democracy, and debate that are deeply missing from our political system and NATO. Where NATO will be meeting behind closed doors surrounded by the riot police on May 20th and 21st, the People's Summit will be open to everyone with complete transparency and free of charge. While NATO will discuss current and future wars aimed at progressing the agendas of the 1% war machines, the People's Summit will discuss a future for the 99%, a future that values healthcare and education for all instead of war and corporate warfare for the 1%. The People's Summit will show Chicago what real democracy looks like. The summit will host a variety of over 40 workshops on topics from poverty, racism, and war to healthcare, workers' rights, gender liberation, and women's liberation. The summit will bring together members from the interfaith community, environmentalists, labor unions, healthcare activists, immigrant rights workers, anti-racist activists for opportunity to educate, have dialogue, and build solidarity for struggles facing us today and in the future, and how these struggles are connected not only locally, but nationally and internationally. Keynote speakers for the People's Summit will include Sarai Sarar, a member of Afghans for Peace from Toronto, Raina Baran, a member of the International Coordinating Committee of the European No to NATO Network. Other speakers include Kathy Kelly from Voices for Creative Nonviolence, Deaf Row President Mamia Abu Jamal via speakerphone, Malik Majihad, Muslim of the Muslim Peace Coalition, Medea Benjamin of Code Pink, and Kona Ann Wright. For more information about the People's Summit and to pre-register for this event, please visit us at www.peoplessummitchicago.org. Thank you.
And next from National Nurses United, we will have Jan Rodolfo, RN. She is National Nurses United Midwest Director.
National Nurses United is an organization of 170,000 registered nurses across the country in coalition with a number of nurses unions in other countries. When we found out that the G8 would be coming to Chicago, we made a decision to move an event to Chicago where the world would be watching and invited nurses from around the world to come together to stand up against the austerity measures of the G8. What is austerity? Austerity is nothing less than food being stolen from the mouths of children, students drowning in student loan debt, individuals losing their houses, patients unable to fill their pain medication prescriptions or their chemotherapy, patients that delay getting treatment because they don't have health insurance. Those are not G8 pragmatic measures or policies to be discussed in the abstract, but things that impact our patients, our families, ourselves, and our communities. Nurses are positioned uniquely in every community around the world, and so nurses are coming together to speak out against the G8 and to propose an alternative, which is a Robin Hood tax, a simple tax on Wall Street, 0.5% tax, a sales tax essentially, that's only 50 cents on every $100 of trades. Unlike food and items that we buy at the store that we need, where we pay a substantial sales tax, currently Wall Street and traders pay no sales tax at all. So 0.5% Robin Hood tax. That is our message, and as a result of the resounding resonance of our message, we believe that the city and Mayor Emanuel have taken the position that they want to push us aside to Petrillo Bandshell rather than having us march into the heart of downtown Chicago to Daley Plaza, which is clearly a symbolic center of protest for Chicago. We will not be silenced. We did not cancel our event when the G8 decided to hide at Camp David. We are not going to cancel our event now that the city is moving on our permit. We are on a deadline of end of business today to make a decision, essentially an ultimatum, where they have told us we have to either agree to move to Petrillo Bandshell or to have our permit rescinded altogether. We are prepared to file in federal court for injunctive relief. Again, we are in deadline for the end of today, and regardless of what happens in terms of the location of the event will go on, and registered nurses will not have their voices silenced. Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
Our next speaker is with the Coalition Against the NATO G8 War and Poverty Agenda, or CANGATE. His name is Andy Thayer. That's ANDYTHAYER.
Thank you, Rachel. And I and CANGATE are very proud to stand with the nurses in their fight with the city to exercise their free speech rights. Now, back when Occupy Chicago and the other Occupy started in last fall, people criticize him as perhaps having too narrow a focus, but Occupy rapidly learned to focus not just on the economic, but on the political and on the military. They got it. They were not fooled when President Obama pulled the G8 summit from Chicago. They knew that NATO represented the de facto military arm of the G8, and they are standing proud. We are standing proud with them. I consider myself an Occupy Chicago participant, and we're very gratified to announce this morning that Stand Up Chicago is going to be standing with us in the streets of Chicago on Sunday, May 20th for the big march against the NATO headquarters just a few blocks away from here. So we encourage everyone to join us in the streets. Do not let the city of Chicago to intimidate you from exercising your First Amendment rights. We're going to be very proud to have the people who have sacrificed more than any other Americans leading our march. Iraq Veterans Against the War will be proudly leading our march down to McCormick Place to turn in their medals, and we're very proud to stand with them. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Right.
And our next speaker will be with the Iraq Veterans Against the War, IVAW. His name is Aaron Hughes. That's AARON HUGHES.
Every day, 18 veterans commit suicide. 17% of the service members in Afghanistan are on psychotropic medication. 20 to 50% of the service members in the service right now are already diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, traumatic brain injury, or military sexual trauma. 1/3 of the women serving in the military are sexually assaulted by their peers. 48% of the individuals that report sexual assault are males. The military is in a mental health crisis right now. And these generals that are tasked with the care of the service members are not living up to that task. And if they cannot live up to their creed and to their task of their service members, the soldiers that sacrifice daily for them, how are they to accomplish their mission of supposedly building democracy for others in Afghanistan? That is why Iraq Veterans Against the War demands an immediate withdrawal and the return of all our brothers and sisters from Afghanistan, so that Afghans can begin healing, and so we can begin healing. We're marching, and we're going to be returning our medals, not to protest necessarily, but to start healing, to demand justice, to simply ask that the military acknowledges, that these generals acknowledge that a wrong has occurred. We live with that wrong every single day. When I first crossed the border into Iraq, I saw the little kids on the side of the road, and I thought, Hua, these are the kids I'm here to liberate. These are the kids I'm here to help. Well, those kids were still on the side of the road 6 months later, and they were still on the side of the road 12 months later, and 13 months later, and 14 months later, and 15 months later. And on my last convoy out of Iraq, my squad leader, Sergeant Holland, cried for 3 hours asking himself over and over again, what have we been doing? What have we been doing? What have we been doing? This is something that's on repeat in my mind every single day. And I think it's time that these generals ask themselves that question. And we're asking them to come down and accept these tokens of the global war on terror that we don't want to be a part of anymore, because we don't want to be a part of a mistake any longer. Thank you.
All right. Well put.
Okay, our next speaker is with the mental health movement. They've been doing the occupation at the Woodlawn Clinic. Her name is Nadana Carter. That's big N apostrophe big D ANA, last name CARTER.
It's on point that I follow the last gentleman, because in Chicago, mental health is being denied to the poor. That means all of the veterans that are coming home that are not able to be treated at the veterans' hospitals will have no place to go. The suicide rates will rise. Already we have 18 people that have been hospitalized, It's going to cost the city and the state and the county over $250,000 for that short stint that those people are going to be forced into the hospitals. We have occupied for 25 days at the Woodlawn Clinic. We have a new occupation that we are asking all occupiers from all over the world, when they come to Chicago, come to our occupation at 2343 North Milwaukee in Logan Square at the Northwest Clinic. We're not committing any crimes. We're just making sure that everyone that needs mental health gets it. We've never had our voice. As the veteran said, people will die. We've had 3 suicides since this last budget was passed. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Next, we have a representative from Network for NATO Free Future. His name is Michael McConnell of the American Friends Service Committee. He's their regional director. That's spelled M-I-C-H-A-E-L, last name M-C-C-O-N-N-E-L-L.
The American Friends Service Committee and Peace Action, 2 of the largest peace organizations in the United States, are sponsoring a counter summit on May 18th and 19th. We will be bringing in people who actually live in the North Atlantic and are against NATO, people from Europe, former parliamentarians, and also people from Afghanistan to speak against the war in Afghanistan and the NATO policies. Also, Tom Hayden is coming to try to stop another war back to Chicago. I wore a suit today because I hear that the downtown Chicago workers are being told not to wear suits and camouflage themselves as protesters. Well, I'm a protester. And I want to say that I represent, and all of us here represent, the majority of Americans. Over 60% are against the war in Afghanistan and against NATO policies. So the NATO alliance, born of the Cold War and once supposedly defensive, has now turned offensive, aggressive, and interventionist. And that is bad for Chicago, and it's bad for business, and it's bad for our local communities. So downtown office workers, don't be afraid of the protesters. Be afraid, very afraid, of the NATO alliance coming here. Because billions more dollars, if their policies are passed to be more interventionist, they have partnerships from Turkmenistan to Mauritania and beyond to continue war permanently. Billions of dollars will be drained from us as taxpayers and from our local communities. So my advice to the local Chicago office workers are, don't ditch the suit, ditch your job, and join us. Come be a protester. Don't just dress like one, actually be one.
Next, we have a speaker from an event that hasn't really been announced fully yet. It's called the Barefoot Summit, and his name is David Myers. That's D-A-V-I-D-M-E-Y-E-R-S.
A little unaccustomed to public speaking. I'm here to bring part of a crew that's bringing the Barefoot Summit to Chicago, to Petrillo Bandshell. Any questions?
We're gonna take questions at the end, but if you could just explain.
We have 3 minutes for questions. It is basically a love letter from the people of Chicago to the world. It's a showcase for all the best that Chicago has to offer in terms of music, culture, youth culture, and a lot of other things that are coming together really, really well.
What day is it?
We are looking at May 18th, 19th, and 20th at Petrillo Bandshell. Questions?
So these will be performances and others?
There'll be performances, a lot of performances, a lot of speakers. We are looking at, I gotta slow down a second. We have a lot of the greatest sort of local talent. Rebel Diaz, a bunch of bands from Pilsen, and Little Village. We're trying to cover the whole city and get everybody equal access to the stage. And in order to do that in a city of 8 million, we are also building pipelines for people to be able to speak at the mic who aren't connected. So we have people's mic checks, which is an open mic where people can sign up. We have to work out that process to make it democratic and representative. And we are having luminary mic checks or open mics where people who have sort of more star status standing in the world can come and have their say.
Where can people get more information?
At this point, you'd have to call me because we don't have anything up. It'll be at barefootsummit.net.
Do you have permission from the city? Is that all straightened out?
We have not. We don't have a band shell. They have the band shell, so that's in process. I have no doubt that that's happening. None.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Our next speaker is with Chicago Indymedia. They're one of the main sources of independent news that's going to be coming out of the summit. His name is Chicago Indymedia is spelled Chicago and then INDYMEDIA. His name is Jimmy Johnson. That's JIMMY JOHNSON, and he is the last speaker. We'll take some questions after that.
Good morning, y'all. Make me look skinny, okay? We're here with Chicago. Oh, sorry, love. We're here with Chicago Indymedia and NATO Indymedia. Over the past, let's say, 15, 20 years, especially, we've seen drastic cutbacks at the corporate media. Reporters and media technicians are being put out of work. There's corporate cutbacks. And so, one, we stand in solidarity with our workers and our colleagues in the corporate press. But also, these cutbacks have led to a wire press-driven reliance on news, and then the further editorial and advertiser-driven lines that we see inside the corporate press. And at Indymedia, we're not acting as a supplement for these cutbacks, but what we are doing instead at Chicago Indymedia and NATO Indymedia is that we will be, we will be providing a grassroots-driven coverage, where protesters themselves can get their voice out instead. And along with voices that aren't always heard, the officials from NATO, the city officials, and the police will get plenty of time in front of the cameras and in the news. What we won't hear quite as much of is what's coming from the grassroots, what the protesters themselves saying. And so that's what we're helping to provide. And to do so, we have a convergence center at 1000 North Milwaukee that will be set up at the Multiculti place on the 4th floor. That will be set up in order for media and grassroots journalists to come meet each other, as well as to dump tape and do whatever other kind of media information that they need to do. We'll be aggregating Twitter feeds and live streams and helping to coordinate a best possible outreach and forming a grassroots media narrative against the NATO protests. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me, folks, I'm sorry.
Fine, I gotta finish this tweet. Okay, now we're going to take just a few questions. We really do want to get out of here quickly. You can address myself or any of the speakers. Please raise your hand and then identify yourself when I call on you.
Rachel, could somebody take a shot at, it's Phil Rogers from Channel 5, could somebody take a shot at the issue of, since the city has been so all over about permits, since you have so many people coming into town from so many groups, where are they going to congregate? Where are they going to be on a daily basis during this 10 days? Are they going to try to congregate in places that the city will tell them to do?
We're going to let Andy Thayer answer that one.
Okay.
Well, this is, as you know, Phil, has been a continuing struggle for us because this mayor has shown himself to be very hostile to free speech arguments. And those of us who are participants in the Occupy movement remember that this mayor was the #1 recipient of campaign contributions from the financial services sector when he was congressman, and see it as no contradiction that he's behaving the way that he has. That said, we're very happy to say that there is a ride board set up at protestnato.org. There is also a housing board that is set up at CANG8.org. That's numeral 8.org. And we invite people who are coming into town who are looking for resources on where to stay and how to get some aid to check out both of those websites. There are many other websites as well. Now, in terms of public convergence, the last time I checked, the First Amendment had not been annulled in the city of Chicago. And so people should feel free to walk the streets. As I said in my earlier remarks, do not let the city of Chicago intimidate you from exercising your First Amendment rights. It is your right to walk down the street. It is your right to congregate so long as you're not blocking other people from going about their business. And then that's what the Occupy movement has been about from day one. And in spite of that, the city of Chicago and cities around the nation, orchestrated, I might add, from at the federal level, have blocked this and forced occupiers to face ridiculous charges. That much said, I think the bottom line is this. If there are any violations of free speech rights in the city of Chicago during the NATO summit, I place the blame not just at the doorstep of our mayor, but first and foremost at the doorstep of President Obama. Because one telephone call from President Obama would clear up the situation with the nurses' permits, would clear up any other permit situations. This president has got to say to Rahm Emanuel, cut the hell out, guarantee people's First Amendment rights in the city of Chicago, and that's it.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And I can say that Occupy Chicago is not seeking permits for any of our actions and events. We believe the First Amendment is our permit, and we will be in the streets. Any other questions?
Yeah. I'm Derek Blakely from CBS 2. Andy, just to follow up, is there any more clarification of what's going to happen at the end of the big march, since apparently you're not going to have a stage, a sound system there? Any further news on that?
I'm not at liberty to give you an answer on that. We will be giving you an answer on that on Monday.
So what's in process, though?
I'm not at liberty to talk about that. I can just tell you that we will have a definitive announcement on Monday. Our march will be beginning at Petrillo Bandshell at 12 noon on Sunday, May 20th. The march itself will be led by the vets, and Aaron Hughes of IVAW described what they are going to be doing, but we will have a definitive announcement about the end of the march on Monday.
Yes?
Excuse me, I'd like to know what happens, I'd like to address you. What happens if the police do try to stop you or want to stop you from walking down certain streets? You said it's your right to walk down the streets. Some streets, they say, will be closed off, so I'm just wondering what happens in that case, or if they do want to prevent you.
Well, I think, Rachel, from Occupy, that you don't need a permit to walk down the streets. If those streets are not blocked by the security perimeter and so forth, then it is your right to be on a public way. In terms of what's going to be happening on Monday, again, I should say on Sunday, May 20th, again, we're deferring those questions till Monday. Thank you.
And we're going to take one more, then you can do one-on-ones with people. Yes?
Hi, Rachel. Randy Bell, Summit WGN. I think you told the Associated Press last week that there's a bit of a challenge finding protesters because on the East Coast, people are going to Camp David. What is your expectation for the crowds, and is it lower than you thought? And can you unify people?
There are thousands of people from all over the world coming to Chicago to protest NATO. The 99 Solidarity buses are gathering people from New York and Boston, from Atlanta and Oakland and LA and San Francisco and everywhere in between, and bringing them here for free to stand in the streets with Nurses United, to stand in the streets with the veterans, and to march against NATO and the 1% war machine. We expect huge crowds, and huge crowds will happen as long as Chicago comes out and doesn't believe the fear-mongering of the mayor to join us in standing up for our rights to peace and a world without foreign wars.
What are you expecting from the actual Chicago Occupy movement, because that's dwindled since it started?
Although Occupy Chicago has not been in the streets in such numbers as we were in the fall, you'll remember that on April 7th, we had nearly 2,000 people participating in a day of community action in neighborhoods all over the city, and then we converged downtown. The Occupy movement is not dwindling. The Occupy movement is strong, and we will be here to fight NATO along with all of our allies. Now, we're going to cut this press conference off. If you have...
One last question. One last question. Diversity. I want to see diversity. Please. Okay, could you please clarify today and make it well known throughout the city of Chicago that indeed, although most of the people here are white, that we do have protests from the people that are black, brown, yellow, and I want to clear that. I want to clear that.
That's right.
Occupy Chicago has been working on many days of action. There's more than just the May 20th march. There's 10 days of action. One of those days of action has been planned by Occupy El Barrio as an immigration day of an action. No human is illegal day of action. This is to address and embrace the fact that in this city that is so segregated, we realize that there is a problem and we can do something about it. All of us, not just, white people, not just black people, not just Hispanics, not just poor people, not just rich people. We can all work together to do something about this. We expect to be walking with people of all colors, of all shapes, and all sizes on all of our days of action.
Rachel, Cheryl Corley from NPR. Do you guys think you have an ally in the city and the NATO host committee, since they say that this will be a peaceful event and they expect protesters to be able to voice their First Amendment right?
No.
All right, so we're going to finish with these questions now. We have this room for about another 15 to 20 minutes, and you are free to get one-on-ones. If you can please raise your hand if you're a person who's willing to give an interview. Anybody who's standing here, including the folks from Occupy Walk, who walked all the way here. So come and speak with them.